Ladies and gentlemen, there's a certain kind of pain that doesn't come with loud words or dramatic endings. It comes with silence, the unanswered messages, the calls that never come, the space where someone's presence used to be. And in that silence, we search for meaning, we question ourselves, we replay everything we said, wondering if we pushed too hard or cared too much. But what if the silence is the answer? What if the absence of a response speaks louder than any excuse, any half-hearted explanation ever could? Tonight, I want to talk to you about the moments when someone's silence tells you everything you need to know. The moments where no response becomes the most honest response you'll ever get. Because sometimes the clearest truth doesn't come in words. It comes in what's not said at all. When you pull back from someone who has started to take you for granted, it's easy to be misunderstood. People might say you're playing hard to get or trying to manipulate the situation. But there's a big difference between pulling back to punish and pulling back to protect. You're not creating distance because you want to cause confusion or hurt someone. You're doing it because you've realized your presence has been undervalued and your energy has been taken for granted. That realization forces you to prioritize something far more important than being chosen by someone else, your own self-respect. When you're constantly the one initiating, checking in, solving problems, making things feel balanced, it creates an invisible emotional labor that starts to weigh you down. You begin to feel emotionally exhausted. Not because you don't care anymore, but because you're trying to carry a connection that should be mutual, not one-sided. At first, it feels like you're just doing your part, but over time, it starts to feel like you're the only one showing up. And when you bring it up or ask for more, you're met with silence, excuses, or minimal effort. That's when you start to feel unseen, not because you're invisible, but because someone has stopped looking. So, you step back, you stop reaching first, you stop over-explaining, you stop filling in the blanks that someone else should have the courage and care to fill themselves, and suddenly you're labeled as distant, cold, or hard to read. But what they fail to understand is that your withdrawal is not an act of punishment, it's an act of survival. You're preserving your emotional resources, you're protecting your peace, you're choosing to give that love, energy, and thoughtfulness back to yourself. Pulling back is not a tactic, it's clarity. It's what happens when someone shows you they're okay with giving the bare minimum, and you decide that you're not okay accepting it anymore. It's not about creating fear of loss in someone else. It's about recognizing that fear of being undervalued has kept you stuck far too long. There's a quiet power in reclaiming your time and energy. You start noticing the conversations you were leading on your own, the gestures you were offering without reciprocation, the way you were shrinking yourself to stay connected to someone who had already emotionally drifted. You don't pull back to make them miss you, you pull back because you miss yourself. You miss the version of you that felt secure, empowered, and emotionally safe. And if someone isn't willing to make space for that version of you to exist within the relationship, then that space has to be created outside of it. People who genuinely care will notice the shift and step up. They'll reflect, reach out, and realign. But the ones who don't, their silence tells you everything. It hurts, but it also reveals the truth you may have been avoiding. It helps you detach not out of bitterness, but from clarity. You're not playing games. You're just done explaining your worth to someone who's no longer listening. Self-respect means trusting your instincts when something doesn't feel right. It means not settling for a connection that costs you your peace, your joy, or your identity. When you pull back, you're choosing to stop negotiating your standards just to be kept around. You're allowing space for the right person to step in, someone who values your presence without needing your absence to recognize it. And the beautiful part is, once you start honoring your own boundaries, you start attracting people who do the same. Your silence no longer feels like loneliness, it feels like protection. Your distance no longer feels like loss, it feels like peace. Pulling back becomes less about what you're leaving behind and more about what you're making room for: respect, reciprocity, and real connection. There's something deeply powerful about a consistent, loving presence in someone's life. It's the thoughtful messages, the supportive words, the shared laughter, and the comfort of knowing someone's there without needing to ask. But too often, that kind of presence becomes the backdrop: reliable, familiar, and quietly assumed. When someone shows up for us over and over again, we can start to believe they always will. And in that belief, we risk doing something harmful, taking them for granted. Being present isn't just about physical proximity. It's about emotional availability. It's about caring when it's inconvenient. It's remembering the little things, staying connected even when life gets busy, and choosing someone over and over again, not just when it's easy or exciting. But when this level of effort and presence is met with complacency or entitlement, it chips away at the foundation of a connection. The person who's always there begins to feel unseen, not because they're doing less, but because the other person has stopped noticing. They become the one holding the emotional weight, showing up on autopilot while quietly wondering if anyone even realizes what they're offering. That slow invisibility is painful. It's not loud or dramatic. It's subtle. It's in the missed thank yous, the overlooked gestures, the way their voice is sometimes drowned out in a room they helped build. Presence should be acknowledged. It should be appreciated in real time, not just in reflection, not just after distance is created. When someone invests in us, they're giving their energy, attention, and time, things they could have easily given to someone else or kept for themselves. That effort is a gift. It should never be assumed. The person who texts you when you're quiet, who celebrates your wins, who listens when you're uncertain, they don't have to, they choose to, and that choice deserves recognition. It's easy to get comfortable with someone's consistency. It's human nature. We adapt to what feels secure, but comfort shouldn't turn into entitlement. Just because someone always shows up doesn't mean they always will. People don't leave because they run out of love. They leave because they run out of feeling loved. They grow tired of showing up without being seen. And when that happens, their absence echoes louder than their presence ever did. Sometimes it takes losing someone to realize how much they mattered. The things they used to do suddenly feel glaring in their absence. The morning messages are gone. The check-ins disappear. The emotional warmth that was once constant turns cold. And it's in that silence that reality hits. What you once took for granted was, in fact, rare. But appreciation shouldn't be retrospective. It should live in the moments we share, in the small acknowledgments, in the daily gratitude. A simple thank you, a sincere I see you, can go further than grand gestures. Because at the core, people want to feel valued, not just needed, not just liked, but truly seen. Presence isn't about perfection, it's about effort, and when someone gives you that, it's a reflection of their heart. It's easy to say we care, but presence is how we prove it, and when someone is consistently there, they should never have to wonder if it matters. They should feel it in the way you speak to them, prioritize them, and show up for them too. If we want people to stay in our lives, we have to give them a reason to feel appreciated, because even the strongest hearts grow tired. Even the most patient souls have limits. And the person who's always been there might not be there forever, especially if their presence is treated as an obligation rather than a blessing. Sometimes silence says everything you need to hear. You wait for a message, a call, a sign that they care, and what you get in return is nothing. And that nothing, that lack of response, can be more honest than 1,000 words. It's easy to confuse silence with uncertainty or believe that maybe someone is just busy or unsure. But the truth is, when someone wants to show up for you, they do. When they care, they make it known, and when they don't, their silence becomes the clearest answer of all. We spend so much time analyzing the gaps, replaying the last thing we said, wondering if we should reach out again or if we're being too much. We fill in their silence with stories, giving them the benefit of the doubt because we want to believe they still care. But in doing that, we ignore what their lack of effort is already telling us. If you're not important enough for a response, that in itself is a message. A hard one, yes, but an honest one. No one is ever too busy to communicate with someone they value. It takes seconds to check in, to say, "I'm thinking of you," or "let's talk soon." When someone repeatedly chooses not to respond, not to show up, not to engage, they're also choosing what role you play in their life, or what role you no longer play. That realization hurts, but it also brings clarity, because what we tolerate in silence often teaches others how to treat us. People show us who they are in how they handle the quiet moments. If they can go days without wondering how you are, without caring how you feel, without even noticing your absence, that's all you need to know. A relationship or any connection requires presence, not just in good times, but especially when things feel uncertain or fragile. And if someone's only consistent response is silence, then their message is already clear, they're not invested. Silence also reveals alignment. If you're the one always reaching out, always trying to fix things, always holding space for two, then you're not in a partnership. You're in a performance trying to earn a response that should have come freely, and when that response doesn't come, your heart starts to question if it was ever mutual. That inner confusion, those late nights wondering if they're thinking about you, if they even noticed you stopped texting, becomes a sign that you've been left alone in the connection long before the silence ever started. There's also power in choosing not to chase that silence. When you stop begging for a response, when you stop explaining your worth, when you stop trying to fill in the blanks they've left, you reclaim your dignity. You realize you don't need someone to verbally reject you to know you're being dismissed. Their absence, their disinterest, their refusal to acknowledge your presence is rejection already, just served in a quieter form. And maybe the hardest part is realizing that silence doesn't always mean someone is angry, confused, or trying to work things out. Sometimes it just means they're done but too cowardly to say it. They drift, they vanish, and they leave you carrying the emotional weight of their disappearance. But in their silence, they give you the gift of truth, because someone who truly cares would never leave you wondering where you stand. So when you find yourself in that space, waiting on a reply that isn't coming, checking your phone for a sign that someone still values you, remember that no response is still an answer. And often it's the only one you'll get, not because you don't deserve better, but because that person wasn't capable of giving you what you were looking for in the first place, and the silence they leave behind, it becomes the space you needed to finally hear yourself. Silence doesn't always come to hurt you, sometimes it comes to free you. It strips away the illusion, removes the guesswork, and gives you something solid to stand on. Because when someone chooses not to respond, they also choose not to prioritize you, not to fight for you, not to make space for you. And while that may sting, it also shows you exactly where you stand. So instead of chasing answers from someone who's already answered you with their absence, redirect that energy back to yourself, to your growth, to your peace, to the people who do show up, who do care, who do respond without needing to be asked. Because you never need to beg for love, for effort, or for clarity. The right people won't leave you wondering, "Thank you."